Hi everyone, so today is a really good day because it's always a good day when you get a new Juvia's Place palette. So the one that I have today is the Nubian 3. This one just launched. I wasn't expecting this today. I thought it was going to come tomorrow because it said it was going to come tomorrow, and then all of a sudden I got a message that it was delivered, so I was like, cool. So we are going to get into swatching this palette now. So if you are new to my channel, the way that I do my first impression videos is that I first swatch the palette and then we get into doing a look with it, and then I will sum up with my thoughts on the palette in the end. And this is of course only going to be a first impression, it's not a review, so I just want to make sure that that is very clear. And I also don't really go into a lot of details about the palette, so if you want to know more about this, like how many grams are in it and all that stuff that I don't really care that much about, I just care if the palette is good, you know? So I will leave the link to the website down below so you can go check it out for yourself. But let's get into these swatches now. So I'm just going to start by swatching this the way that I always do, going from left to right, top to bottom. So my first impression on the swatches is that it's swatched like any other Juvia's Place palette. I had a bit of an issue swatching some of the mattes in this, especially the grays like this one and this one down here. It took a lot of building up and they just don't really swatch that well, but I feel like it's a pretty known fact that Juvia's Place's mattes just don't really swatch that good, but they're great on the eye. So not really too worried about it. And it's funny because I posted a picture of this on my Instagram not that long ago, like 2 hours ago maybe, or maybe even an hour ago. Anyway, but a lot of people have been saying, I wasn't sure about this palette because of all the grays in it, and here I am sitting like, I wouldn't have bought this palette if it wasn't for the grays, so I definitely want to play with the grays today because I love good gray shadows, so I'm excited. I'm gonna go ahead and prime my eyes with my MAC paint pot in soft ochre, and then we can get into trying out some of these on the eyes. So like I said, I definitely want to play with some of the grays in this to see how they perform because they did swatch pretty bad, so we're just gonna have to see what happens. Alright, so like I said, I am gonna go in with some grays here, so I'm gonna first start off, you know what, this palette doesn't have any names. Wow, that is like, what, the second Juvia's Place palette that doesn't have any names? That is so strange. I went to look and I was like, oh. So I guess I'll just go in with the gray. So I'm gonna take this one. This is the darkest gray, which is what, the second shade in the palette. This is so weird not have a name in a 12 pan palette where a lot of the shades are the same. Like it's one thing with the Zulu palette where it's like one green, one purple, one yellow, you know what I mean? Like I could just say yellow, but here if I go ahead and say brown, you're gonna be like, which one? I don't get it. I don't get why there's no names in this. Actually, you know what? It came with like a plastic slip, but I always throw those out, so maybe the names are on that. I don't know, but I'm not going to keep a slip just because of the names because that's just annoying. So I'm going to go ahead and take this gray here and I'm going to be putting that into my crease. And I'm just using a small fluffy Luxie brush to do this with. I'm not going to be doing anything fancy yet. I'm just going to work on building up this color. And I'm probably going to go in with the lighter gray to try to blend this out a bit afterwards. And I know my MAC paint pot is probably not the best primer to be working with grays because it has a little bit of a yellow undertone, but I just really like how Juvia's Place shadows perform on top of my paint pot, so we're just gonna have to deal with that if it's looking a little bit weird in the transition here. But I mean, so far this is building up super easily and nicely and way better than it did in my swatch, so that's always good. But I feel like this happens every time with Juvia's Place. They just don't swatch the best, but on the eyes they perform like a dream. See, that was so easy. Wow, I feel like I barely even touched the shadows there. So I'm gonna do the same on this eye. I think I'm also gonna go ahead and take the shadow down to my lower lash line. So I'm just gonna first pack it on closest to my lashes. So I will say I wish this palette had a black in it because whenever there is a gray in a palette, I really like to have a black to go with it because it just is a good way to deepen up a gray. You know, you can't really deepen up a gray with a brown because that's just wrong in my opinion. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to dip into the lighter of the gray shades, which is this one right here. And it's not even really that gray. It's kind of more like a light taupe or something because I feel like it could go with some of these browns in this palette as well. And I'm just going to use that to gently blend out all of this gray. So that was super easy. I will say that it was having a bit of a hard time just sticking to the outer part of my eye here, but it's probably because my eye's been watering a little bit and I didn't really have a problem on this side, but I would probably recommend going in with a bit of eyeshadow primer underneath your eye with this gray in particular, but it's not really a big deal. So I think next what I'm going to do is I'm first going to dip into this darkest silver. Also going to go ahead and spray this. And I'm not going to be doing any kind of cut crease or anything like that because I really prefer to not do that in my first impressions. I know I've said that so many times, but in case someone is new, I like to see how shadows perform and whether or not they have, you know, the kind of coverage that I'm looking for in a shimmer, because I prefer my shimmers to be very foiled and very metallic, and that is what I like. So I'm having a bit of fallout with this shade here, and it seems to be wiped away very easily, which is good. And I probably forgot to even say where I was putting this, but I'm putting this on the outer part of my lid here. And I think what I want to do next is I'm going to go into the lightest of the coral shades down here, and I'm going to put that on the rest of my lid, and then in the middle I'm going to probably pop this one just to kind of blend these two in together a bit more. So like I said, I'm just going to be putting that on the first half of my lid here. And this doesn't seem to be super opaque like the other one. Maybe I just need to build it up. So I do feel like this shadow is a little bit sheer. So next time I'm using the shadow, I will probably go ahead and do a cut crease, because I don't feel like the shadow is super opaque. It's not like opaque enough that I can layer it on top of a dark shadow without being able to see the shadow underneath, which I feel like is happening right now. Like, it's not a big deal or anything, but just ideally next time I definitely think I would go in and do a cut crease before putting this on top. I'm also having a bit of a hard time building this up. I feel like the shadow is just a little bit crumbly. How did this one swatch? Okay, so I guess it's this one down here. It seemed like it swatched fine. It's not the same formula as the silver that I used on my lid though. It's definitely a different kind of shimmer formula, and I'm not sure I like it that much. But I probably would like it more if I did do a cut crease like I said, so I'm just going to leave it at this for now. And then I'm going to go in with the upper left shade here, which I don't know what this is called because it doesn't have a name on it. So I'm going to use that, and it doesn't have a name on the back either, just making sure here. So I'm going to take that on this same brush, and I'm just going to be putting that in between the grey and the shadow that I just put down, just to get a bit of a better gradient between the two. I also don't feel like this one is showing up really that well. I mean, you can see it. I don't feel like this is the Juvia's Place formula that I know and love. And just to finish up, I'm going to go into the lightest of the silver shades, and I'm going to put that on the first half of my lower lash line. I've been really enjoying having a pop of shimmer down there lately. I just think it makes every look pop. So I tried this first not spraying it. I feel like these shadows are a little bit hard to pick up on a brush compared to what they usually are. I don't know if it's a different formula, but I feel like they're just a little bit more hardly pressed in a way. But this is definitely working. So I think this is going to be it for shadows. I am going to go in and just put a little bit more of gray just in my crease here, just to make sure that everything is looking nice. And just to make this pop a bit more, I'm going to put some white in my waterline, and then I'm going to do some liner mascara, and I will be right back with the finished look. Okay, so this is going to be the look all complete. My wings got so out of hand that I had to like save it by pulling it down to my lower lash line, and I think it looks okay, but I've never really done this before, but I don't know what happened. Sometimes, you know, wings just have a life of their own. So for my lipstick, I use the L'Oreal. I don't know what kind of lipstick this is. It doesn't say on the tube like what line this is from, but it's called Empower. So I don't know. I think it looked good. It's kind of like a corally shade, so I figured it would go with the rest of this look. So as for my thought on this palette, I wish it had a black. That's my first instinct. I'm like, I wish this palette had a black, because if you're using only the grays, this is as deep as you're able to get it. And I feel like that is not really deep enough to be able to use a lot of these shimmery shades to go with it. Just my opinion, but I will say that I feel like some of the shimmer formulas in this are a little bit different than usual. Like even just like looking at my swatches here, like you see this one right here and this one, they just look very kind of like wet looking and like a bit sheerer than the other ones. I don't think I've seen a formula like this from Juvia's Place, so maybe I need to just kind of find a better way to work with these, because they don't perform the way that I'm used to them performing. So I don't really know if they're trying to come up with like different formulas within palettes, but I was just a little bit thrown aback by that, I guess. So I don't know if I want to say it's a bad thing, but it's just not what I expected from Juvia's Place, if that makes sense. So I don't know, is this my favorite palette? No. Does it work well? Yes. I don't really know what else to say about it. I mean, I feel like the shadows that I used performed okay. I do feel like some of the shimmers aren't as intense as what I'm used to, so we're just gonna have to wait and see if that is like something that they are working on. I really have no idea, but I don't know. I mean, I think this palette is okay. It's not my favorite. I knew it wasn't gonna be my favorite when I bought it just because of the color story, but I still wanted it because I'm a bit of a Juvia's Place collector. Don't have all of them, but I have all of the palettes that aren't just a neutral palette, and I felt like this was kind of like a half neutral palette, so I don't know. Am I justified buying this even though I probably won't use it much? Probably not, but it's a Juvia's Place palette and I just wanted it. So I think that is just going to wow, can't speak today at all. This is my second video that I filmed today, and the first one I was just like babbling and I couldn't get the words out of my mouth to save my life. So I think that is going to sum up this video. So my final thoughts, I guess, are that I think it's fine. I think it's fine. I don't really have anything else to say about it. I don't love it, I don't hate it, it just is. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you bought this palette. I would love to know. And if you are new to my channel, I would love it if you would consider subscribing. I will see you in my next one. Bye!